you watch his clips. One, I think he's more athletic and springy than we probably initially gave him credit for. There are some clips out there where he kind of seems like an underneath the rim player, but there's also some clips that I believe are more recent where he actually looks to be in better shape and a little bit more springier and bouncier than you see in, the initial footage.
Hello and welcome into another edition of 3Ma. I am John Kurtz. Yes, I am here. I am back. Derek Young is here. We're all here. The whole gang back together for you. A nice June show. A little football and basketball recruiting, all positive things, I would say today. K-State has landed a quarterback of the future potentially, and we have official confirmation about one of the Euros that is coming over to play for the Wildcats. It's great news. Calls for a toast. You know what to grab. Get that bottle of Ben Holiday bottled in Bond bourbon. Fill your glass and raise it and toast to the Cats. Ben Holiday bottled in Bond bourbon is the drink of choice of 3Ma. You guys know that. And we continue to get tweet after tweet of satisfied customer out there. So if you have not tried it yet, you're going to be out at the lake this year over the next couple of months. Bring it the next time you are out there. However you're celebrating the summer, if you're still stocking up for tailgates, whatever it might be, Ben Holiday bottled in Bond bourbon. You can grab some 360 vodka as well from our friends at Holiday Distillery. Okay, Cole, nice job. I listened to the Isaac Trotter podcast on my drive home as I was driving 8 hours back from a Wisconsin lake house the other day. So thank you for that, for providing some entertainment there. I did notice that when in the group chat, you kind of were like, hey guys, come on, are you going to listen to this? Please listen to this. And I said, jokingly, I tried, but the host was really bothering me, so I turned it off. I got no response. You didn't even respond. Did I hurt your feelings too much with that comment?
No, I think I just got sidetracked, and I probably just rolled my eyes because I knew you were gonna, throw some sort of jab. DY never responded, but again, I don't believe DY has ever listened to a show that I have recorded that he is not on. And obviously, I highly doubt DY listens to the shows that he is on. So there is a very high chance that DY has never listened to a single 3Ma episode out of 400 plus that we've done now. Does that seem right, DY?
It's actually absolutely correct. I have not, but that's more so because I've said this to you guys before in a group text, but I'll say it now. It's a little bit braggy, but it's just I never feel like I need to listen to a Kansas State podcast because I feel like I kind of know what I need to know on that front, being that it is my job to cover the team full scale. So if I have any time left on my hands beyond work and family, it goes to other podcasts that'll actually teach me things that I don't already know.
But DY, you don't find it interesting? Think of the guys we've had. We've had Brock Heward on twice, Gary Parrish. We had Isaac Trotter, Jeff Goodman. You don't find those outside perspectives.
So I'm either on the show or you're going to text me it anyway. So,
all right. Well,
you did text me the high points of the Isaac Trotter interview. So
I did.
Well, Cole. I mean, in fairness, the Discord typically covers it all too. Oh, wait, DY's never on the Discord either. So, okay.
Oh, I also have my own message board to worry about. So,
all right.
Patreon.com/3Ma, by the way, if you want to be a part of the Discord community, which has been growing. We've got some we got some new posters lately that I've enjoyed quite a bit.
Yeah. Shout out to Richard L, who I thought was John. I thought he was mocking Richard Linton, and so it was an interesting short period on the Discord there. So shout out to Richard. It's actually Richard's name.
Yeah, turns out he's just a dude named Richard. With just happens to be Richard L. So we've got it all. Prince Ron is on there now. Good times happening. Patreon.com/3Ma. I will say, Isaac Trotter got me pretty fired up. That guy, pretty high on the roster, but not in an unrealistic way. I think the statement that the floor is an NCAA tournament team is certainly probably too rich for my blood right now, but I don't think it's like so unrealistic. He was not saying like, hey, this is a second weekend team. He was just saying this is a high floor team. This is a completely different kind of roster than last year, which seemed really boom or bust. This one is setting up to be a lot more stable. So that seems like a pretty reasonable take, and a guy that seems to be very smart, very well connected, that obviously works for CBS. I mean, I'll take it. I thought that was a very, very encouraging sign. It kind of confirms what I think a lot of our preconceived notions had been about this roster right now, which was like this feels like it fits a lot better than it did last year.
Yeah, and there's not like any red flags that we're like choosing to ignore. Like this time last year, we knew like the red flags with Doug McDaniel, but we're like, it'll be all right. They'll figure it out. But there's nothing to be worried about on that front. Cole Hawkins is not really with the team. He has the knee stuff going on, but it'll work itself out. Don't worry about it. They'll figure it out. Stuff like that. Like there was obvious like things right in front of your face that could really limit what this team could do last year, and we chose to ignore it and just kind of pay attention to only the upside. Right this year, there is, for lack of, there could be red flags that come up. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this team is flawless by any means, but there's no obvious red flags that really hamper a team's floor, so to speak. Like PJ Haggerty, for all that we know about him, is the production and the performance on the floor, but also a steady leader and very, very consistent, and a bunch of guys, even aside from him, that can get to the free throw line as well, and he'll pressure the ball. Same thing with Nate Johnson, who's probably one of the tougher, hard-nosed guards there is in college basketball, right? Now, he has to transfer up a level. We'll see if that translates, but just the style itself lends itself to a higher floor, so to speak. So I can understand the higher floor. The roster itself, with its limitations in spots, specifically the front court, and with I would say a litany of guys transferring up from the mid-major level or over from the international level, I think I wouldn't say those are red flags, but those are more wild cards than we probably would love them to be. And I think that might be like something to pay attention to or keep an eye on if things don't go as planned. But I don't think that really hampers the floor, maybe the ceiling, so to speak. I think really for me, it's the roster's makeup, not necessarily with the concerns set aside. It's the roster's makeup in addition to the coaching moves that Jerome Tang made, which I think might be just as good or even better than some of the things he did with the roster, because I think Matt Driscoll is going to have a profound impact on this year's team.
Yeah, like Isaac was great. We're definitely going to have him on the pod again during basketball season. Really appreciated his time. Really well known in the college basketball industry. Great work over at CBSSports.com, national college basketball writers. Go check out his work. And his piece that he had on CBS about Kansas State last week or the week before now at this point was terrific, and talked about, obviously the free throw numbers and getting to the rim. But also, I thought one thing that was interesting, guys, and John, you had echoed these concerns before last season, was he had talked to an anonymous Big 12 coach prior to last year, which he alluded to in his article. And they were very pessimistic about the K-State roster that they'd put together heading into the 2024-25 season, because they didn't have enough guards. And Doug McDaniel was your lead guard in a ball pressure heavy Big 12 with defenses like Houston, Iowa State that are going to come out, pressure the ball hard. And you didn't really have anybody else outside of Doug McDaniel that could be a playmaking type guard. And then obviously his efficiency numbers were really poor, and it didn't translate well. And he was in the doghouse much of the time. So to DY's point, I think we probably kind of decided we'd brush aside at a decent clip the whole fact that Doug McDaniel didn't travel to a bunch of road games last year due to academic reasons, and that he's never played in an NCAA tournament game, and he still hasn't. Chose to look past that, and that's not really the case with these guys. I mean, Nate Johnson, PJ Haggerty that you're bringing in, both played on teams that won their leagues last year, and were in the NCAA tournament, so they were on winning teams. Kostic, Rapieque, obviously from Europe, so it's a different thing. Kamari McGriff, UNC Wilmington, they were 13 seed or 14 seed in the NCAA tournament. They won their league as well. And so you brought in some guys that have won at a decent clip. There's no red flags off the floor or anything like that that are going to really draw your concern when you look at the roster. And Isaac actually has a new piece out on CBS Sports from yesterday where, he kind of ranks the Big 12s in tiers. He's got K-State now in Tier 4, but Tier 4 doesn't sound as bad as it probably does when you think about it. That's in the bubblicious phase. And, he once again reiterates that K-State should hear their name called on Selection Sunday. So higher floor.
That's where I take issue with this, Cole. If you're going to say the floor is a tournament team, why are they not in the category that is Tier 3 NCAA tournament team, where Baylor is the only team that sits? All right.
It is an inconsistent conversation, I would say.
Well, what's interesting about that is I thought Parker on our Discord had said yesterday that Isaac actually had moved us into Tier 3 when Elias Rapieque became official yesterday, but then I checked this morning and it showed Tier 4. So I don't know. Like, they're probably right on that edge of Tier 3, Tier 4. So
I know. I love you. I'm just giving you a little bit of shit there, but
it was interesting, John. The starting lineup he projects, he actually has Kostic starting at the 3, which I like. I mean, I actually think Abdi Bashir off the bench makes sense to me. He has Tyreek Smith and Kamari McGriff also starting. I think probably Rapieque, based off what we've heard, would start at the 4, and then maybe Tyreek Smith. The question we have, obviously, is at the bigs. It's in the front court. Is Tyreek Smith gets his favor.
Is Tyreek Smith on the roster?
Yeah.
Is Tyreek Smith going to be eligible? Who's the other big they add? Can Kamari McGriff defend fives at the high major level? Does Elias Rapieque come over and have a seamless transition to play the 4? Because you don't really have a lot of natural 4s outside of him. Obviously, Moby can play the 4, but you'd like the 4 to be able to have some range, and he doesn't have that.
Yeah. And, Matt Driscoll has said before, I've listened to interviews that Matt Driscoll's done, the new associate head coach coming into Kansas State from North Florida, and he likes bigger guards, and he has that now at Kansas State. He's had guys, Josiah Miles and Josh Harris, which were like wing types for North Florida. They were 6'6", 6'8", and they both transferred to Indiana this offseason from North Florida. Well, now you got guys like Haggerty, first of all, who's 6'3" almost, and Nate Johnson, who's around 6'3". And then at the other guard spots, you got Kostic, who measured in at 6'6" at the Euro camp, and Abdi Bashir, who measured in at 6'7". So you've got longer guards, which he likes. And so I think this team will probably shoot a decent number of threes. I think they're going to get out in transition and run a lot, guys. I mean, Isaac mentioned that they're going to have heat-seeking missiles on the court with Nate Johnson and PJ Haggerty and their ability to get down the rim. And look, we talked about the at the rim numbers as well, but I'll just reiterate this. PJ Haggerty was 119 of 197 at the rim last year, 60%, and he was 112 of 177 at the rim at Tulsa the year prior, 63%. Over the last 2 years of college basketball, he's taken 40.4% of his shots at the rim, 374 out of 925 field goal attempts at the rim for PJ Haggerty. He's made 62% of them, 231 of 374. K-State's 5 guards last season worth 151 of 311 on shots at the rim, which is under 49%. But to put that in perspective, Haggerty's 197 attempts at the rim would have accounted for over 63% of K-State's entire shots at the rim from their 5 guards combined last year. And if you add Nate Johnson's 93 of 158 on shots at the rim, him and Haggerty combined to go 212 to 355 on shots at the rim, which is 60%, which means those two combined to attempt 44 more shots at the rim than K-State's 5 guards combined last year, and they made 61 more shots at the rim than those 5 combined. So they're going to get to the rim. They're going to get to the foul line. It's just a different roster composition where they didn't have near enough guards last year. They were heavy in the front court. And this year it feels like they're actually maybe a little light in the front court. That's why they're looking for another big right now, but they've got the guards equipped to achieve success at a much higher rate.
Can you just go retroactively grab a Shore from last year? Like, just use that, I mean, already paid for it. So, could you just go grab that and throw it back on this year's roster? Does that work?
I don't know that we want to bring in a red flag when we just said one the good thing about this team is there is no obvious red flags.
You guys
Well,
see
maybe
he's projected to start at Mississippi State. You guys see that?
Makes sense.
I also didn't realize until I was going through this Isaac Trotter piece that Baba Miller wound up at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The hell? All right, well, whatever. We get to play him. All right? We get to play him. I can't wait. I can't wait to beat down Baba Miller in Cincinnati next year. How about that? People on the Discord know about that beef there. Long-standing one. Patreon.com/3ma to get linked up with that. Just $5 a month, a little extra support for us, but you get a lot of extra content and a great community on the Discord. Look, Elias Rapieque is official. That's really why we're here today. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a moment.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, it's playoff time, and if you're still just watching games, then you're missing out. With Pick 6 from DraftKings, you can turn your hoops knowledge into real cash. Just make your picks, track your score, and if you hit all 6, you're looking at bigger payouts than Prize Picks flex plays. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 picks, and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you could be looking at a 500 times bag in your pocket. And right now, new customers can get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry. Here's what you got to do. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins, only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So I will admit, especially before Haggerty was landed, right? Like I had a legitimate amount of anxiety about, like, all right, we know that Elias Rapieque is supposedly committed, but until we saw something official, I was always like, we've been burned a couple of times here by things that were supposed to be done in the transfer portal over the last few years that were not. Of course, who can forget that battle with Texas Tech over, boy, who was that? Ahmed Waggy and Joseph Toussaint. That's right. Of course, Caleb Battle. Hell, Baba Miller was like sort of in that kind of category too. So I was always a little bit leery of this, but we finally got the confirmation. We got a commitment post from Elias Rapieque himself. His agent had also reported it yesterday to multiple people. So he is coming. Guy that can play the 4, maybe the wing a little bit from Europe. Very talented international prospect. I think the coaching staff is very, very high on this kid. I am very, very high on this kid from what we have seen of the film of him. DY, your reaction to this being locked down, what it means to the roster?
Yeah, I think it's been locked out even longer than the Andre Kostic thing. I think the the delay in an announcement of any kind wasn't on the Kansas State end of things. Really, it was more on the Elias Rapieque. Now, I'll be honest. I was watching clips of him, and the announcers there call him Rapieque, like rhymed with Topeka. So I thought that was interesting. That pronunciation.
What's interesting about this is a reference that I'm sure a lot of our audience will get. I think it's going to land on deaf ears with you guys. Okay,
probably. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Euro Trip?
No.
A classic. Cole, I'm just gonna.
I've seen it.
Look at that. All right,
Scotty doesn't know, John.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it several times as a kid.
Okay. Well, I'm very. This is a great development. DY. I'll never forget the time I had DY on radio, and I came in from a break and was like something about Britney Spears. I think a Britney Spears song was playing as the bed, and I was like, "Hey, DY, what about Britney Spears?" Dead silence. Nothing.
Yeah.
And nothing for me on a pop culture reference. All right. Anyway, Euro Trip. The whole premise of like why they go on this trip is this kid is talking to his like foreign exchange. Well, he has like a pen pal over email basically, and it's a German guy he thinks named Mike, and he gets his friends get him all drunk and riled up and think that the guy's like hitting on him or something, and so he sends this message like never talk to me again. Then the next day, his kid brother comes in and is like, dude, why'd you tell that hot chick that you're never going to talk to her again? And he's like, what are you talking about? There's a guy named Mike. And he's like, no, Mika, a common German girl's name. So that's, maybe it is Rapieque, just like Mika.
Yeah. That's what the announcers over there were saying. But I mean, who knows? We'll find out soon enough. I believe it's one of the other. But
please do watch Euro Trip. A great early 2000s coming of age.
I don't watch a ton of movies in general. I think that's part of my issue. More of a TV show guy.
Will you ask Mary if she's seen Euro Trip?
Yeah, I'll ask. I doubt she has, but I'll ask. I think he wanted to fulfill all of his obligations. I'm talking about Elias Rapieque to Alba Berlin before moving forward with anything. So I think that was the final hang up. Now he still has to get his, from what I understand, his visa issued as well. And I know there's everyone has some consternation about that because of things that are happening. But I've heard that they don't expect any hurdles or concerns on that front either. That they are operating and under the impression that everything will be fine. So that's good as well. And from a talent standpoint, hey, I like him. I've seen some comps out there like European Keontae Johnson and stuff like that. Well, maybe not, and maybe they're talking more stylistically, which I don't know if I agree with either. Like everyone's bound to their own opinion. I just think this guy seems. You watch his clips. One, I think he's more athletic and springy than we probably initially gave him credit for. There are some clips out there where he kind of seems like an underneath the rim player, but there's also some clips that I believe are more recent where he actually looks to be in better shape and a little bit more springier and bouncier than you see in, the initial footage. So that I think is a good sign. And he just comes across as pass first to me. And that's not a bad thing. He's almost, I think, stylistically maybe more to Coleman Hawkins than he is Keontae Johnson, because I think he's more something that we give him credit for. But I think he likes to, one thing, a high basketball IQ, really, really smart, a very elite passer with great feel for the game. But he does a little bit of everything. He's not someone that's I don't think, going to average like 15, 20 points a game, every night. I think he's kind of I don't know if Swiss Army knife is the right term, but a guy that does a little bit of everything. But I think his strong trait to me is his feel for the game and his ability to really pass the ball and his court vision, his basketball IQ. And if that suddenness and athleticism and springy, bouncy is improved like I think it is, that'll help him on the defensive end because that's probably a little bit of a concern. But he'll at least give you some, post defense that you might not be great at yet either.
I mean, I think he's much more diet Coleman Hawkins than he is Keontae Johnson, just because Keontae's athleticism was through the roof. And also Keontae shot 40% from three at Kansas State. His last year was tremendous shooting the ball, and we saw him going up for the lobs and everything. I don't think Rapieque, I'm going to get used to calling him Rapieque now. I don't think that's really his game, but I do view him more as a point forward type glue guy. So that can play the 4, but can step out on the wing as well and isolate a little bit. So I think passing the ball is going to be more of his strength. I don't think he's going to look to light up the scoreboard, similar to Coleman Hawkins. But we know the staff thinks very highly of him, and they're really excited to get him in the fold. And so like the addition, the one missing piece at this point is probably a big. It can be either a 4 or a 5. Bryce Desert is one of the guys that they've been talking to over in Europe, a big 7-foot center. It sounds like it's probably down to KU and K-State for that one. Auburn was engaged as well, though the latest rumblings were KU is probably going to get Desert. So we'll see where K-State might be Desert, by the way. I don't know how they pronounce his name. But we'll see where K-State goes from there. But with Rapieque in the fold, you pretty much got your roster nailed down outside of one spot at this point. So likely
Cole, if we're trying to determine how to say his name,
it's French, so it's dessert. Yeah.
Dessert. Okay. Well, if it's about a dessert, and my go-to here is early 2000s coming of age comedy movies. I mean, there is a movie that involves dessert called American Pie. I mean, maybe that's where we turn for, this. No, okay, dessert.
I blame our Discord for consistently making jokes about like saying, "What are you, more of an appetizer guy instead of dessert?" When like I had made a comment that I don't love Desert's game, to be honest. Like I don't know if there's.
I would say
I'm just not in love with like true back like 5s like him at this point. I'd rather get like a 4-man or a 5 that can space the floor a little bit, that can move a little bit better. I mean, he'd be fine, but he's more of your traditional type center, and I just in today's game of basketball, I just don't love that.
Yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie. Like I have no opinion. I want them to land a guy that people think is good. That's I'm not breaking down. It's June 5th. As many have said to you, Cole, that you were just talking about recently, like it's football season, man. I'm not grinding tape of European 5s right now. I'm not. Now, shout out to the Parker Eves of the world who definitely are. That's great. I love that. I love that for you. It's just not what I'm doing.
Yeah, I would say I'm more in football than Hunter right now either. It's hard to get a basketball mid in June when football's literally right around the corner, but we're doing it. And I would say what I want would be a guy that's super long, can run the floor, and is a good lob dunker guy. So hopefully that's what they can reel in.
I hear you guys. So I will get the over-under statistical numbers ready for football season here, and we can start diving in. And I've got Avery Johnson at 6,000 total yards, all purpose. So, and 58 touchdowns between rushing and receiving. So we'll get ready to fire up those shows here in the near future.
What are they going to do if Tyreek Smith can't play?
Then I guess you got to get 2 bigs. I don't know.
That could be a problem. Because then you have Osei redshirting, and Kamari McGriff is your only real big. I mean, you got Moby Ikegaruka, who's more of a 4. Like that would be problematic. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's where I wonder. Like,
I'll be honest. I don't want any part of Moby playing a 4 though. Like he's small ball 5. Like I don't like 4s that can't shoot. It's just where I am.
Yeah.
Can the NCAA hurry the hell up? Like how is it June and we still don't have a resolution on Tyreek Smith?
They kind of did, and they appealed it. I think that's what happened.
I know, but like, hurry up with the appeals process.
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
I get that they've got a lot on their plate with the House settlement, but like, it's just college sports right now is just a freaking mess, man. Cole, one of the things that I picked up from the Isaac Trotter interview was like he seemed to be relatively high on Tyreek Smith. It was just a kind of a quick passing comment about it, but he seemed to, I guess in my mind, I had heard some people express some pessimism about what exactly he could be. And I was like, I don't know, that seems like that could be, especially now, I think the way the roster has shaped up, seems like he could be really, really valuable. So
he's a tough rebounder, actually a pretty good shot blocker even. I've always liked him. He actually came into both Memphis and what was the other spot? There was two of the most recent ones. two of the most recent ones. Okay, SMU, not Memphis. He didn't play there. SMU and whatever. He stole the starting job both places. Like he wasn't started beginning the season. He started the last half of the season both places because he basically outworked the other guy.
I think it's Oklahoma State DY before that. Yeah, he's a guy that's got experience at the Big 12 level. I mean, he started his career at Texas Tech, then he went to Oklahoma State. There's SMU, Memphis, K-State. I mean, this is his fifth school. They didn't play at Memphis.
PJ Haggerty's fourth school. I mean, welcome to the world.
Yeah, that's just part of it now at this point. So,
With
yeah, I mean, I like Tyreek Smith. Like Tyreek Smith is a serviceable big. He's strong. He's athletic. He will go get the ball. He's a gritty type big. He will block shots. He's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's got long enough arms and wingspan that he is going to be fine. Now, you want to have another guy behind him, or in an ideal world, Tyreek Smith is coming off the bench as your backup center. But I can live with him being your starting five. I mean, they just need a guy that's going to go rebound the basketball, be aggressive, block some shots. Doesn't have to be a dynamic scorer, be a rim runner. Get some putbacks, with the guards that they have now at this point, that's what you need from your bigs. And so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, to John's point, it's June 5th. Like, let's get a decision made. I mean, teams need to know what their rosters look like. It's ridiculous that we're waiting.
No, he can be a starting five in the Big 12. I think he's good enough to do that, especially with the composition of the rest of the lineup, like Cole said. But he's also someone, because he's a little undersized. He has the length to do it, but being undersized, foul trouble could get into it a little bit. Is just basically a 50-50 split with him and McGriff enough. You want to get yourself some margin for error.
Yeah.
John, one thing I took away from Isaac Trotter interview as well, he really emphasized how good of a passer PJ Haggerty is, which I had wondered about, true point guard type skills. And yeah, he really talked up his passing ability, his ability to distribute and create for others. So that's certainly encouraging when you think about the roster and him manning the point guard spot.
Yeah, although there's really no point guard spot in Driscoll's offense.
Nah, yeah.
Which again seems to really work out. Like things have come together. Things have come together. Okay, some football talk. K-State has landed its quarterback commit in the 2026 class, and we'll talk about that in just a moment.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
So, K-State has gone to Texas, which, as you guys discussed on your most recent show, great job, by the way. Listen to that one, too, you guys. K-State has landed a wave of commitments out of the state of Texas lately. The latest is Miles Tedecki, who is out of Austin, and K-State's quarterback commit. Cincinnati was really the other Power 5 offer, Power 4. My apologies. Rest in power to the Pac-12. Power 4 offer that this kid had. Other than that, it's a lot of G5. So this is not sexy in terms of recruiting ranking necessarily, but I think you, like DY, you kind of have done a good job breaking all that down. The situation K-State is in there with that. But maybe let's start with like him as a prospect, him as a player. You're the talent evaluator here, DY. So what do you see in Miles Tedecki, who playing 6A football, so really high level in Texas out of the Austin area, which has produced a ton of great college and NFL quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think he beat like South Lake Carroll in the tournament, and I think that's a huge school and notorious for a lot of championships and all that in the state of Texas. His team won the state championship. He was state champion quarterback this past year, a really high classification in the state of Texas, and he threw for over 3,000 yards and 48 touchdowns. So he is producing at a very high level against really good competition. On the flip side, he has a really good team around him, so it does help. I would say he's more distributor than anything. Like even in the Elite 11 stuff, if you look at some of their, like they have a cognitive test and physical test, and some of the physical stuff, he's not really ranked up there with the other quarterbacks. But in the cognitive stuff, I think there's like 5 categories. He's number 1 in like 2 or 3 of them. So you're getting someone with a lot of wits, intelligence, is more analytical about how he goes about things. Was amongst I think he was tops and finding the open receiver, kind of processing, seeing the field, those types of things. So he is more diabolical from a mental thing than maybe with his arm talent, is what I would say. He's not going to blow anyone away with his arm talent. Doesn't mean he can't play quarterback at this level, but he is not going to scream off the page with an arm talent of a quarterback you say be the number one pick in the draft, so to speak, right? He's not that.
So what I'm hearing here is Tom Brady.
There you go. Yeah, there's perfect. Oh, Tom Brady from California. You got a quarterback from Texas that screams that. So you think about that, but that's how I would say. He also completed over 70% of his passes this past year at the high school level. Again, playing really good competition. A lot of guys around him. I don't think Cincinnati was probably actively recruiting him. I think the Kansas State swooped in, got their guy. The only thing now, like I said, the concerns maybe arm talent. I don't think he has a crazy arm. I'm not saying he has a bad arm, but he doesn't have a crazy good arm. It's not like Kansas State's recruiting Avery Johnson here or anything like that. But he's also a left-handed quarterback, and that you guys have heard me. I don't love the idea of a left-handed quarterback because you do have to flip everything around. You know, the playbooks are designed for a right-handed quarterback, and so you're flipping play structure. You're flipping the offensive line a little bit too. It's not only are you teaching the quarterback the offense, but you have to kind of reteach the offense almost to an extent to the rest of your offensive roster too. So I think there is some challenges associated with that. That's why, to be honest, you don't see a lot of left-handed quarterbacks. Some people think it's because there's not a lot of left-handed quarterbacks. That's partially it. Partially it's because of the challenges that it kind of brings with it too. So that's an interesting layer in all of this personally that I would have. Some offensive coordinators don't believe in that. Maybe Matt Wells is one of those. You would call me crazy for what I'm saying, but that's personal preference to me. I don't really like having a left-handed quarterback. And Miles Tedecki has a little bit of his release and delivery, I wouldn't say is the most crisp or fundamentally sound either.
Wow, that's very, very, very leftist of you, DY.
I'm a lefty, to be honest. I'm a lefty when it comes to football. I'm a little ambidextrous, so I do some things left-handed, some things right-handed. So, look, I'm a lefty myself. It's just that's hard at the football level, I think, for a quarterback.
I just wanted you all to see what I did there, calling DY leftist. Leftist DY here.
If I am a lefty, so
does not want the left-handed quarterbacks out there.
Side note, I played baseball. I was pretty solid at it. I actually pitched left-handed and right-handed.
Well, you were the guy like that Creighton pitcher a few years ago that switched gloves on the mound, every now and then when they switch it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty impressive. I would not be able to do that. I mean, to me, guys, he reminds me of a hybrid between Steve Young and Josh Heupel. And so that's kind of the comp.
I like the expectations Valley gave for this guy. He's going to be either going to be a pro or a head coach at Tennessee. We'll see.
Can he move? Can he move like Steve Young?
No, probably not. I didn't see a lot of clips of him running too much when I watched his film. Haramze challenged me yesterday when I put on the Discord. Yeah.
Very accurate.
I put on the Discord Josh Heupel 2.0 after watching the film, and Haramze was like, how so? And I was like, he's left-handed. Now Josh Heupel.
Josh Heupel didn't have all that much arm.
No, that's what I was going to say, John. I mean,
he didn't, but I think that worked back then, right? I don't know if that works as much today. Maybe it still will. I could be totally wrong, but think of the quarterbacks that won national titles back then that had little to no arm talent. Like Josh Heupel didn't have a lot of arm talent. Ohio State won a national title with
Krenzel, yeah. I mean, but Heupel was so he didn't have an elite arm by any means, but he was tremendous with what he did at Oklahoma.
Well, Stetson Bennett won a national championship a couple of years ago.
I think, but I think he has more arm talent than both Josh Heupel and Craig Krenzel.
Well, John and I and many K-State fans just remember Phil Bennett blitzing the hell out of Josh Heupel and him falling off his back foot or just continually backpedaling and floating the ball out into space and burning K-State's blitz.
Yeah, they just, he would just there's Antoine Savage running with nobody around him at all,
Yeah. So, obviously, again, not a guy that, had an elite arm, was a lefty. And to DY's point, I mean, Tedecki has kind of a 3-quarter release on his throws. But I mean, 48 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He was the offensive MVP in the state title game when he went 14-17 for 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. You mentioned it, 48 TDs, 7 picks. I mean, the numbers look good, and he's playing in the highest level of football in the state of Texas and doing it in the Austin area. So, I mean, there might be something to work with there. I mean, DY, I had echoed my concerns about kind of the quarterback recruiting when we did the show last week or earlier this week about, really were they able to identify a guy they really wanted in this portal. I will say this, and again, like if he plays to his recruiting profile, then K-State's going to need to really nail next year's quarterback in the class. But you only, and you made this point off air, you only have so much room in the budget to go hit a home run at quarterback in the recruiting cycles. Yeah.
They're restricted because you can't tie up. You can only tie up so much money at each position, right? I mean, John, I think, talked about this before too. You almost have to think like a general manager. Like you give your starting quarterback Avery Johnson this much money, and if you think Blake Barnett and Dylan Duff are going to be dudes, and they do, then you got to keep that in the thought into your mind because those guys are going to need to get. It's like pros. It's like a general manager thinking right now. Those guys are going to have to get paid at some point, one or both of them. Like even it's hard to do a quarterback battle now too, right? You take a quarterback battle into training camp, you got to pay 2 guys to keep them. So like it's so hard. And then when Avery leaves, whether that be this offseason or the next, I don't think there's certainty on either one. You could still be 2 off seasons from now, in my opinion, but we'll see. You're probably going to get a transfer anyway at that point, and then you got to pay to get a transfer quarterback. So you got to keep all of this in the thought of your mind of how you're going to allocate your budget, and you think about all the money that they kind of had to keep this year's core together as well. When you talk about their best players because they want to make a run at the Big 12 championship, like how much do you actually have left in the tank, in the piggy bank, to give to a high school quarterback recruit? This is probably the class where I believe that was likely they were restricted the most.
Well, and speaking of quarterbacks, they really like Blake Barnett. I think they really like Dylan Duff. So you feel pretty good about the quarterbacks just ahead of Tedecki. And speaking of quarterbacks that won a national championship without big arms, guys, how about this? Will Howard just won a national championship for Ohio State, and I don't think any of us would argue that he has a huge arm.
Bigger arm than people think, I believe. But
Will Howard's recruiting profile kind of reminds me of Tedecki's, guys. I mean,
was being chased by powerful quarterbacks like actively too.
Yeah, I mean, he had offers from KU, K-State, Maryland, Minnesota types. Like,
and when Kansas State got him, he was still being recruited by KU and Minnesota pretty hard.
Yeah, but, he was the 961st player in his recruiting class and the 64th ranked quarterback, and Tedecki is the 76th ranked quarterback, but that's because I believe ESPN and the consensus rankings doesn't have an evaluation on him yet, so he could hover right around there. Again, these are more outliers when we say, like, Josh Heupel or Will Howard, but, Will Howard was offered by the whole Ivy League, and Tedecki has offers from the whole Ivy League, which you mentioned the cognitive skills and everything. DY, that's certainly something there. So yeah, I would say like Tedecki probably has the floor though of a guy that could be a solid backup because he's gonna be smart. He's gonna have the system nailed down. He's gonna be a guy that could come out on the field if you need him, and step in a pinch. And the ceiling, who knows? I mean, there have been numerous guys that didn't have Todd Reesing, didn't have an elite recruiting profile, and look what he did at Kansas. We could go down the list of guys. They're more outliers than anything, but
Reesing was an Austin guy.
Yeah, that's kind of why I threw his name out because he was from Austin, and
I just don't. Yeah. Things are so different. Like most of the names we're saying are from a long time ago. So like I said, it's
calling us old.
No, this guy's really productive and really accurate. He might have missed his era where he could have been good, but he's really productive, really accurate, really smart. Presumably a really great kid. I'm not really knocking the ad, especially like I said with the with the restrictions that were likely in place. But we'll see what can come of it. I like the idea, and I think it's correct, and that the floor is a solid backup. But when's the last time someone stuck around for 4 or 5 years to be a solid backup? It doesn't happen. They transfer now to go be a starter somewhere.
Yeah. Well, but it's a good thought, though.
No, it is, and it
Maybe
makes
something-
sense. It just doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. I
Well,
mean, Jacob Knuth a little bit, but he probably thinks he can, compete for a starting job if Avery were to leave after this year, or if he doesn't, does he jet? And he came in via transfer himself anyway.
the other problem is if you are going to make him stay, it probably takes a little bit more money, which is kind of where we started this whole conversation. I mean, like K-State paid Taquan Roberson to be a good solid backup quarterback, which, as we saw, worthy investment to win.
Yeah, even if it's one game, it pays off.
Yeah.
Who's the backup quarterback this season behind Avery Johnson? Who are you predicting? I'm not telling you, like, who do you predict? I'm not saying based off info.
Blake Barnett.
Yeah.
Blake Barnett.
That's where I'm at too.
My information did suggest that Jacob Knuth was going to be actually the number 2 quarterback, but probably was. And then right before, and if you guys remember, he didn't travel for the Colorado game because he got injured that week. So Taquan Roberson was the backup and got there by default. And then obviously he did well, and everything was over at that point. So I wouldn't totally rule out the possibility of Jacob Knuth because I think he technically won the job last year. What I will say, what kind of works in Blake Barnett's favor is, and Jacob Knuth actually can run pretty decent too, but Blake Barnett's kind of in a different, I think, level. Is Blake Barnett is stylistically similar to Avery, so it kind of works that way. That's why going from a righty to a lefty, that's totally different. They're going from Avery Johnson to Blake Barnett, both righties obviously, but they are very similar in style in terms of running ability and how they play the game. You don't have to change anything. And that's why you see it a lot in the NFL where teams, when they go search for the number 2 quarterback, he's identical stylistically to the number 1 quarterback, so they don't have to change anything philosophically.
I'm just offended that DY called us old. I mean, I made a reference to a movie from 2000 and one from 2004. I don't understand where exactly you're getting that from.
Do you guys say, like, the comments in YouTube and in the Discord always says our references always make us seem old? This one really struck a chord with that, I would say.
I think that's mainly Cole. I mean, I think Cole's the bigger problem there.
I like the shirt you're rocking today, John. Emphasis on rocket. So
thank you. Yeah, I usually don't really love like patterns. This is one of the few I do. I'm doing this right. We record in the morning, so I gotta go to work. That's why I just said, we gotta wrap.
I like your fit, John. See, that makes me seem.
Yes, much better, DY. Thank you. Yes.
Please do wrap it. Please do wrap it up, John.
See, Cole, fit is short for outfit, so that's why the kids say fit. All right. Well,
kids might not even say fit anymore, to be honest.
I know, probably not. Well, no, probably.
Aura is also a word that I have learned. So
yeah, I also think that Aura is now probably getting old.
And Riz too. Remember when I asked Jace Brown about Riz and DY was so cringe.
Riz is very old. That was kind of cringe.
Also, when you're as old as that, you try to use those words, even if they're still in, it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing I'm not old, DY. It's a good thing I'm not old.
Guys, Discord, give me the new words to use, and I'll slip it in on the podcast when I'm interviewing a player or something.
We've got teachers. We've got teachers on the Discord, so they can help us out. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Doing Holiday Distillery proud. Go out and get your Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon, your 360 vodka. Thank you to Nick Springer behind the scenes, as always, for DY and Cole. I am John. Thanks for listening to another edition of 3 Ma. We will talk to you very soon.